Hi everyone, this is Dr. Kingston, and in this video we're going to be talking about the pancreas. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the pancreas and making special note of its different endocrine and exocrine secretory functions. Then we'll take a closer focus in on the endocrine secretion because we are in the endocrine unit, and we will talk about what types of cells and hormones are involved there. But before we get too far into talking about what the pancreas does, I think it's a good idea to just kind of go ahead and define what it is. And what it is a big glandular organ that hangs out in your abdomen. I think a lot of people have a general idea of what the pancreas might be, but it tends to surprise them, especially in an anatomy lab when you're seeing one for the first time. And it's surprising that it really is just a big gland hanging out with your digestive organs. But being a big gland allows it to have both endocrine and exocrine secretory functions. All right, so the endocrine functions here are going to function primarily to regulate blood glucose levels. Its exocrine functions are going to produce and push some digestive juice into the digestive tract. So we will discuss that more when we're in our GI unit. Okay, like all endocrine glands, the pancreas is going to have a quite extensive blood supply. Primarily that's going to be coming from the celiac trunk or celiac artery here, branching off the abdominal aorta. And then primarily it's going to come from these splenic branches coming off the splenic artery here. We do see a very characteristic secondary supply with an anastomosis. So in the abdomen, we've got celiac artery, and then we've got superior mesenteric down here, and we do see an anastomosis through the head of the pancreas here as well. So there's always collateral blood flow around your pancreas. Okay, the endocrine and exocrine functions of the pancreas are separate. So they're carried out by entirely different cells. And similar cell types are going to cluster together. So the exocrine, or the digestive juice producing cells, are going to cluster around ducts. So in this picture, the duct is green. It's right there. And these are called acini cells, and as you can see, they kind of cluster like little grapes around the end of the duct here. So when they secrete, everything's going to go down here and out that way. The endocrine cells cluster together in little pancreatic islets, so they are blue here. And as you can see, they are all kind of jumbled up in between these acini clusters as well. So they share the same space within the pancreas, but they cluster together in these groups. And these pancreatic islets of endocrine cells tend to cluster right around blood vessels. So we can see a blood vessel in the middle here, and then another one over here in this one. All right, and that is so that their products that are secreted are picked up very easily into the bloodstream. All right, there are 4 hormones that are secreted by these islet cells, and those are going to be glucagon, insulin, somatostatin, and pancreatic polypeptide. And each of these hormones is created by a specific type of cell within that islet. Okay, so we have alpha cells that are going to produce glucagon. Glucagon's function is going to be to raise blood glucose levels. Beta cells are going to produce insulin, which does exactly the opposite. It's going to lower blood glucose levels. Delta cells release something called somatostatin, and this is kind of a universal inhibitor. It turns off other endocrine secretions for a while. It kind of keeps everything working at the same level. And then we have F cells that produce pancreatic polypeptide. And this is really a self-regulation hormone for the pancreas. So it turns off somatostatin, it turns off digestive enzyme secretion, and it inhibits gallbladder contraction. So that is something that is used to accommodate different amounts of food or emptiness in the digestive tract. All right. So we've got all the players named, and now let's see how they play ball. So we're going to start off with normal blood glucose level, everything nice and balanced. And then let's pretend that we ate a big meal and, oh no, now our blood glucose is high. But not to worry, our pancreas will handle it. So it's monitoring our glucose levels, and it is going to release, in this instance, insulin. And insulin is going to allow our cells to make immediate use of some of this glucose, or it's going to save it away as fat for later. Okay, it is also going to allow the liver to convert some of that glucose to glycogen and store it away for easy access later on. All right, and between those two things, that's going to push our blood glucose levels back down to normal. All right, now let's go in the other direction. So let's say we've been fasting all day and our blood sugar is really low. And once again, our pancreas is on the case, and this time it's going to secrete not insulin, but glucagon. Okay? Glucagon targets the liver specifically, and it tells it to synthesize some of that glycogen that it converted earlier back into glucose so that the body can use that. And that will help to bring your blood glucose levels back up to normal. All right, here's what this entire cycle looks like all put together for your reference. And I just want to make a note here because I know it can be a little jarring to like see high blood glucose down here and low blood glucose way up here. The scales are tipping the way they are because high blood glucose levels would be heavy, so they would tilt the scale down, whereas low blood glucose would be lighter and the scale would tip out. All right, so just so we're clear, I don't want you to get confused while you're studying, and now you are all set to make use of this on your own. So before I leave you, let's do a practice question. Which pancreatic cells are going to secrete insulin? All right, correct answer here is B, beta cells. Beta cells are going to secrete insulin. Alpha cells, do you remember? They're going to secrete glucagon. Gamma cells secrete that somatostatin. And F cells are going to secrete pancreatic polypeptide. All right, so that brings us to the end here. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time.